Apologize for last week not being able to make that meeting. That was on me. I didn't get the minutes to the proper person to disclose them properly, or however they post them properly. So that was on me, and I appreciate you guys showing up at a call meeting. So thank you very much. We do have enough here. There's 8 on the committee. There's 5 of us here, so that represents a quorum. And so this point is I'd like for you to look over the minutes of the last meeting, and I look for any changes or a motion to
move that we approve as submitted.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hear none. Those in favor say aye. And Jerry has agreed to take over as secretary duties again this meeting, as Terry could not make it. So thank you for that. At our previous meeting, we kind of, we had several members that was Tommy and Blake kind of discussed. We asked a number of questions, and I think I got a good feel for what has been done. And so, our call is to kind of make recommendations on whether the IBA is a viable entity, some changes that may need to be made, if any, and dissolution or continue. And we're just to make some recommendations to the commissioners. So as improbable as it may seem, we're just to make the recommendation. Okay, so if there's something on our mind that we just want to share, then we can make that known from the committee. So having said that, when we talk, keep in mind that we don't have to be able to pull it off. We just need to say that we think this is an area that needs to be looked at and possibly changed, improved, or stay the same. So I would say that to say that nothing is out of the question of what we can discuss. I did send you guys some what I felt like we had discussed at the last meeting, and for you to kind of look over and have some to kind of hopefully generate some thought processes about where we should go, what we should do, and recommendations that we should make. And if you will, I'd like to just kind of go through that, and then on that, maybe we can something that you thought about over the past month, we can add to or take away. So 7, having met on June 5th, June 26th, and July 24th, which is not July 24th now, it's the July 29th. The steering committee submits the following recommendations to the Paulding County Board of Commissioners. I just put that just as maybe that's the kind of format that we want to present, and this is kind of what we got. Number 1, we believe that the authority is a vital component and an asset to the promotion and development of business growth for the county. I felt like collectively, as we discussed it, that was, and if I'm wrong, now's the time to speak up and say that, that was not the way I felt. If you felt differently.
I think we probably ought to at least label this as draft until we
Okay, good point.
get farther.
Yeah, until we make our final recommendations and approve everything.
Okay. We further believe that those who have served on the authority, both past and present, have or have had the best interests of the citizens in mind while serving. I just felt like that was a personal statement that I wanted to make, that I have not seen any ill will or personal gain from individuals, or at least their intent for personal gain. If y'all feel differently about that, if you don't think that's something we need to discuss, then that's fine as well. If we include that in our proposal, that'd be okay.
I agree with you. I've not seen anything. Nothing's been shown to me that would make me change my mind about
That doesn't mean that there's been great decisions.
Yeah, yeah.
No, we're not commenting on their decisions, we're commenting on their attitude of service. And that,
The reasoning behind
right.
it is sound, I think, even though.
Okay. We further believe that the current powers of the authority are sufficient, with the exception of the following. Section 35, 351D5, which is the section, if you have the code, or the resolution, I should say. In the resolution, 351D5 says, is to promote and to encourage development, yada, yada, but it says such a acquisition may be through the acquisition of land and construction thereof of a building including, oh, here it is, I'm sorry, but just before that, suitable for and intended for use as a factory, mill, shop, processing plant, assembly plant, or fabricating plant, including all necessary lands and those there too, and all necessary useful furnishing, machinery, equipment. That's what it says. The recommendation should be that it should be amended to reflect present and future industrial and commercial products that are relevant to modern day times. In 1963 or 5, whenever this was done, it was a lot of the stuff that we pursue now wasn't even thought
That's
of.
right, the technology aspects of it were, you know, not even thought of in those days. That was back when the computers took up a room bigger than this, and you had to have 17 air conditioners just to keep the room cool.
Right.
You know?
So, just to make the, we
We
would
need to-
recommend make a change to that.
I would recommend that we do that, and it needs to be, I think you've got it phrased pretty well. It needs to be kind of a catch-all phrase that does not limit the scope too narrowly, so that, you know, industrial development might be attracting a service company here that employs a good number of people.
Right.
And that sort of thing, where the old language just strictly is manufacturing-based
Right.
kinds of things. So we need to have it broad enough that we can bring in many different types of.
Just extra job creation.
Right,
That's all.
yeah,
So, I mean, that
right,
kind
the
of
whole,
encompasses-
right, encompasses a lot of that.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Section 351D4, officers, agents, and employees should be prohibited from serving on other authorities. On this one, D4 says they have the exercise usual powers of private corporation, including the power to appoint and hire officers. As we discussed previously, I think we landed on this, and so listen carefully, that officers, agents, and employees should be prohibited from serving on other authorities as there may/will be instances of conflict. While we believe these entities are all working for a common goal, they are particular in their individual mission and should not be influenced by the good intentions or inability of the other authorities. Someone put it on the committee, mentioned it to me, that it makes it hard for them to be objective when they have their hands in both pots and have authority. You know, if we, to be a manager in both the entities makes it difficult for them. I mean, it would for us as well, because we believe in one thing, so we tend to carry it over to another. How do y'all feel about that?
I agree with that, and there may be conflicts, any kind of conflicts of interest or anything, if you've got the same people doing working on both boards.
And currently, that is what we have.
They can't be unbiased.
Now, is that
And
a
I
lot of
agree
people,
with
or
what
is
you're
it just a
saying.
couple, or how's the lay of that land currently? Because I heard this,
Well,
somebody
you've
else,
got-
there's multiple people on boards, they go back and forth.
Well,
and
they're on the
kinda-
same,
you've
board.
got
You get
like-
the same people on the same board.
Same board.
Seven.
And it shouldn't be, I don't think that it should be
Yeah.
redundant.
Right,
I
and we're
think
not
it
really
should
talking
be-
about who's on the board.
No, no,
This
that's not the
no,
question,
no.
I'm just asking the current, you
Yeah.
know, how is that?
Under the
Yeah.
current setup, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Well, this is
with
particular
the
to the
airport
hiring of
authority.
officers,
Yeah.
not to who's actually sitting on the
Not
authority.
who's necessarily on the board.
And let's just, I mean, you know, quite bluntly, as you know, right, currently Blake serves as the officer or the man in charge, if you will, that's on the payroll for
Right.
both the IBA and the airport authority. And he was hired as such, so that, you know, and we need to discuss just what I think we kind of alluded to, which is who is on the authority and how that, I don't know that we can make that change, or
Well,
that,
that's what
would
that's
require
the-
the constitutional.
well,
right.
only for the industrial board, not for
IDA.
the airport authority.
That's a
right?
legislative thing, that can be handled
But the
legislatively.
airport board, if they set up another board like that, it can be changed, right? Only
You know,
only
and I
the
don't-
industrial board, am I right?
Yes.
okay, yeah.
I don't think the same people ought to sit on those two boards. I think it should be.
Can I interrupt? I did a little research for you guys on this, so this is the makeup, this is the overlap.
Well, hang on, no, you may not interrupt, so we'll pick those back up.
You asked a question, this is the answer.
We didn't
right
ask
here.
you though. Just let us take care of our business, if you don't mind, because last meeting I was in, you were very disruptive, and I don't really want to go there with you, to be honest with you.
Just public
I
information.
understand. I understand.
Give me a copy.
You know, had you been
I'll take a copy after the
palatable
meeting.
previously, I would go that direction, but
Well,
you demonstrated otherwise.
Well, I think that whoever serves on those boards, if they set up another board like they set up the airport authority, it should not be comprised of the same board members as what's on the industrial business authority. Then you've got different people serving on that board, and then whoever they want to hire, it's probably going to be different, would be different people. You'll get more, there'll be more people involved in these decisions than what we've got right now, where you've just got a handful of people
Yes.
making all the decisions, and I don't think that's necessarily a great idea. And that's, I would change them. I know we
So
can't.
would you be, I mean, are you suggesting that it'd be entirely different, that no one person sit on both?
That would be my
Yeah.
preference.
Yeah, I would-
I mean,
I
that would
disagree
be.
with that.
Yeah, I would
Because of
probably.
the financial interest that the
Well-
IBA has, I think they ought to have some representation.
And then not the IBA, I'm talking about if
Yeah,
another
but we
is
don't-
set up
our
like the
scope is
airport.
the IBA.
Okay, but we can't change that.
We can't change anything in.
But we can make, he said we can recommend.
Yeah, we
Well,
can-
we
So
could put
if
it, you're right,
another-
it could be put in the
Germane to the
form
idea.
of, you know, we feel that the people that sit on this board should be hesitant or restricted from, sitting on other
I think so.
authorities.
I think that if they get different people involved in it, you've got a wider range of experience and everything to come to the table with ideas. If you want to have that board because of the funding, I understand that all the funding is kind of come from the county commissioners. They're the ones that eventually approve or not bonds and stuff like that. I mean, so, okay, have them answer to the county commissioners if you want to, with the final say-so, but those people that are serving on the board, I think should be different people. Y'all do have final say, right, on what, on
Yeah, I mean,
funding
Yeah,
and,
well, IBA does their own bonds. They have their bonds with counties.
but the
The county
county
backs
has
the
to,
bonds.
okay.
But one thing, if you're gonna say as far as other authorities, are you gonna say county related boards? I mean, you need to specify if it's, you know, Jamie has his economic development.
Well, I mean, that's a,
You need to specify what, because you could have some lags.
and who knows where that may go?
Yeah.
I mean, we can only identify the authorities that are in existence.
Right.
We can be speculative of what could be formed.
There's, well, I just think it's got,
All right, tell you what, let's just go back to that. Let me,
no, go ahead.
but it's a good point. We're gonna get right back to it right here in just a second, but, on this particular point, it's talking about, hiring other, people to serve on both. So I think we agree that that does
Yes,
not need to
yes, I
happen.
think that should be separate.
Okay. All right, section C. Okay, section CB denotes,
Could it jump back to here to just a pure view? When I was reading,
There it is.
the
is it talking about who's on the board?
authority of 6 members and
Yeah, we just did that.
this was right here. This copy that I have, I think this comes from you.
Okay, it talks about who should sit on the authority.
Mhm.
And I think we discussed, the members of the authority are defined. However, we believe that at least one of the appointed should have an extensive background in finance and lending. How do y'all feel about that? I mean, we're talking about big numbers here, and currently, we know that the IBA has loaned money to another entity. I would just prefer, I mean, my feeling is that there should be a banker or someone that's in the lending that knows about how to capitalize and how to debt service on this level that we're talking about.
With these kind of dollar figures, you want to make sure that those types of loans are receiving what the industry would consider appropriate amount of scrutiny,
Well, what is Blake's, and I like what he told us and everything, I believe he knows what he's doing. What is his qualifications for being, has he got a background in finance or anything?
No.
We didn't get a chance to
But now,
ask
he's not
him
one
that.
of the board members. He is the hired
Yeah, he's an
official
employee.
for the board.
But you're saying a board member, not the hired
We're talking about the
person.
board member, correct.
I
And
would-
this particular one, I have jumped from.
Well,
that.
but if we can't change the board members, who's making up that board,
We can
then
make
we
it
can't
now.
say that they have finance background.
Who's the one that says the board, who the board members are?
board members are.
That's under, B,
Yeah, what's it?
The 6 members.
Yeah,
Of
the
the
authority
board.
shall consist of 6, the mayor of the city of Dallas, the mayor of Hiram, the president of the Paulding Chamber of Commerce, the governing head of Paulding County, and 2 members which shall be appointed by the governing head of Paulding County for a term of 3 years. So there is somewhere within those 2 members that are
So
appointed by the
whoever's
governing
appointed
head.
by the commissioner that would have to have a financial background.
I mean, I'm throwing it out there.
No, I think it's a good idea.
I don't know that you need to limit that. You look at who was appointed, and you look at the background there. You're talking about, case in point, Jim Underwood. Jim probably knows more about high dollar finance than all the bankers in Paulding County put together with his background. But,
And I would.
so I would not say we need to tell them it has to be a banker, but that whoever is appointed should have such qualifications that would include a background in finance.
Business.
Or business experience.
I thought we might ought to add on to that, because, at the last meeting, one of the things that was continuously mentioned from project to project, when Blake was here, were some of the issues, technical issues that they faced on some of the projects in the past. And I thought not just limiting the board members to just finance, but also expanding into some of the technical fields, especially since they're so involved in developing new projects. And there were limitations on some of the properties that they endeavored on that they weren't aware of until after the purchase.
Right.
And they were already committed to doing something.
Yeah, and I think that's where I fall as well, is someone needs to have already researched that before you get too far down.
Well,
So who's that? I mean, how does that?
technically, I would think that would fall under the paid director's jurisdiction. That would be part of his job description. When he brings the proposed project to the authority, and as part of the due diligence period,
That's right.
that those things be investigated before they make those kinds of commitments.
But you mentioned due diligence. We could recommend processes as well as administrative changes, that they could set
I mean,
up a
since
formal review process for each endeavor.
Yeah.
That includes at a minimum, certain items.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the type of expertise that this would require, since the vast majority of the activity of the Industrial Building Authority is going to be the purchase and development of real estate, I would think you would want to have somebody from that background. That's as important as the finance side of it.
Those kind of things can break a project.
That's right.
So
So I'm not,
so it's not gonna be an authority member? I mean, because you're limited, it's really two that can be
right.
appointed.
Mhm.
I mean, we're really talking about the people hired
Well,
by the authority.
You know, if we're gonna make a recommendation in the change of membership of the Industrial Building Authority, I would say that we recommend that they get rid of any elected official on there and have a totally independent authority that's appointed. Let each of those that are, you know, the mayor of Dallas, the mayor of Hiram, the commission chair, or the head of the Paulding County government, appoint members from the business community
In lieu of their?
in lieu of their seats. Now, I know that's gonna be,
That's ideal.
I would follow that direction as well. I don't think that's anything that we can make happen.
no,
We can-
but
we
I.
can recommend it, but, you know, we may say in lieu of that happening, these are something,
Right.
because that isn't gonna.
Well, the whole idea is you need to remove some of the politics from it. You'll never be able to remove all of it because you're gonna have to have appointments come here, but you can include some checks and balances. And I would say that we make recommendations, if we're gonna make that kind of, if we're gonna go down that road, that these people, that the head of the Paulding County government make the appointment for those seats, including his own that he holds now, and it be approved by the commission, that each of the mayors make theirs, and their appointment be approved by their appropriate city council. That gives you a little more
Okay, so-
credibility.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
what you're
idea.
saying is as they make their appointment, let's just say the ones that are available,
Right.
that we recommend that there be approval from the rest of the board or the rest of their
Yeah,
city council.
Yeah,
or-
yeah, and that way, it removes some of the politics from it, because they've got to go before that particular entity and justify their appointment. I mean, you know, a good scenario is look at how judges are appointed and cabinet members are appointed by the president with the approval of the Senate. You got a second body involved, and therefore, if there's somebody's got a bad conflict, there's gonna be the right questions asked that
All right, so
that
how
can
do we
prevent that.
change this then? I mean, so right now it says the mayor of the city of Dallas, the mayor of the city of Hiram, the president of the Paulding County Chamber, the governing head of Paulding County.
But it does
That's
say
fixed.
they can make appointments.
No,
The only one,
that's
the
what
head
I-
of the Paulding County government's the only one that's given the right to make appointments, and they're
And
limited
two.
to two.
So
Well,
that's where I'm getting at.
That we suggest that make a recommendation that the makeup of the Industrial Building Authority that the Constitution be amended to reflect that the membership be made by appointment of those in lieu of its present membership. Now, I need some
All right,
some time to work on the language on how we would exactly
In the event that
do
is impossible and practical to happen, what is the further recommendation?
Well-
That these two appointments that we might have some
Yeah.
of us, so.
And that maybe even they expand the membership of the authority to include another one or two appointments that be made on the recommendation of
Who are the two appointments? Do you know, David, of the?
Jim Underwood is one, and
Alan.
yeah, Alan Schiff. All
Okay.
right,
Now, and I'm just, did David do that?
They-
And
that-
then
yeah,
you guys
because of
said,
the way
"Hey,
it-
this is who I've selected,"
David
and
appointed.
y'all didn't have.
David
to say so.
appointed them.
Add two more positions to the board.
Yeah.
And for them to be appointed by whom?
Oh, I would say,
The mayors of each,
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Because what
That-
Jerry's
You
bringing
get
up
some
more
of it
a-
off the county.
You know what, Jerry's bringing up more of an engineering aspect, somebody, that's where you could add positions to the board for that position, what you're referring to. Instead of having to limit what it is, just add two more positions,
Just add some expertise.
just add.
Mhm.
so if possible, that two more positions be added
okay.
to the IBA authority.
And it
But who you-
And that,
who are you going to let
those
appoint?
appointments, those appointments should be made from related industries, experts within the scope of what the industry, and I don't, again, we're gonna need to work on the exact language of how to express that, but, you know, that's where somebody from the finance side could come in, somebody from the development or real estate purchase side could be appointed from areas that are germane exactly to the duties of the
Is
industrial
that
building
something
authority.
you work on the verbiage for something?
Yeah, I'll be glad to. Mhm.
And let's let us kind of review that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
keep it as much of layman terms as you can. To
Right.
Dumb it down so I can understand
I understand.
it.
Not legalese, but.
No, I'm not a legalese
Common
person.
English.
Everybody knows me.
I'm afraid there's gonna be a bunch of questions in that as, because I'm falling back on, is it gonna be an appointment or is it gonna be a nomination and then voted on by the rest of those on the city council or
Well,
on
we,
the, or on the?
you know, that's something we need to discuss, but I would hope that if we're going to expand this, that we would have some more input from a broader spectrum.
We're a recommending board. I mean,
Yeah.
Just like we have a planning
Yeah.
commission.
Mhm.
Who reviews zoning plans, and special use plans, and things of that nature. They look at it from a technical aspect and provide recommendations to the Board of Commissioners for them to make decisions based on. So even if you had a recommending body that didn't have authority, but could provide input and make recommendations to the board, that might be one way to approach it.
A bit like a plan review.
So, I mean, let's just get kind of realistic. So if someone, let's go to the white elephant. Let's say that so if someone comes in and says they want to build a movie studio here, the process would then be do the pro forma and this and that. It goes to a planning review or review, and then they either confirm or deny or approve or disapprove that it's a good or bad idea.
Well, if you had a good
Yeah.
board, recommending board, that's composed of people from different backgrounds, you might have a person who's good in finance, another person who's good in marketing and doing market research, a person who's looking at it from an engineering perspective, whether the site they selected is feasible, is the infrastructure there, you know, things like that. You know, they could take a look at it and say, each one of those people have their own recommendations and say, I feel this will work because, or I feel this won't work because this is not there, or the market's just not there for that, or, you know, whatever it may be. They could take those recommendations back to the IBA and they would at least have that input coming from people in those fields who, you know, that's what they do for a living, you know.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you might need to work together.
And director could be in charge of that board. IBA director could be over that. They could fall under him.
And the director is the hired guy.
Right.
Mhm.
And these people that we're talking about are volunteers.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the most part, yes. That would be.
Okay. I mean, it's, you know, we're creating another layer, and maybe that's what it needs. But just, it's another layer of bureaucracy.
But it gets more outside input than what we've got right now in this select group of people that are running it. I mean, it
It
gives.
should improve. I mean, not.
A little bit
And
more
that's the
expertise
end
on
goal. I
projects.
agree.
Right. You got more information available from better resources. Not that anybody that's currently on board is not qualified to be there, but it always helps to have people with diverse backgrounds offering input,
Mhm.
especially if they can offer a expert opinion in one specific area and not just rely, you know, only on those one areas where, you know, one person may be looking at something they may not have
Yeah,
the experience to
We've
look
got
at the
some
other
serious
areas.
expertise on there now under the two appointed members. I've known both of them for quite a number of years and know their business backgrounds as well. So they did a great job there.
Well, you need more of that and less politicians.
Well, that's That's why, where I was
You
going
need the
with.
expertise and the
with
less
mine, that
politics.
you need more
All right.
business people and fewer
Exactly,
politicians.
exactly.
All right, well, then I've got here, Mike and Jerry are to present the verbiage for recommending an additional layer of knowledge or information.
Sure.
And I say that, I'm not trying to get away from having food with it.
No,
It sounds like you got a better grasp on it.
I understand where you're coming from on that. I don't have any problem with that at all.
This is, 3C.
Yeah, 3C is pretty much what we just kind of went over. All right, in that 3D, while the authority has the ability and right to loan its capital to others, it should not put itself in such a position exposing the authority to an inability to debt service outstanding obligations, which I think goes back to what you were talking
Yeah,
about
what we're
earlier.
talking about, yeah, about placing some limits on the percentage that they can loan to any one entity.
Well, and then, in fact, the authority should hold enough capital to debt service any outstanding obligations for 24 months or have a reasonable assurance that the funds will be available through governmental contracts or building sales. The expected method of payment should be clearly defined in the meeting minutes of the authority, such as pending sale contract, governmental reimbursement, existing capital, et cetera. I mean, because that seems to be, I say that only because it seems to be an issue that I have. It's like, what were we thinking?
Well, I think that issue has been resolved with the issuing of the bonds. It's my understanding the airport authority is going to be able to not just pay the interest on this, but pay us back the money that was in a timely manner. At least that's my understanding of what went on.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the way I picked up on it as well. So I don't know if that goes into what we're talking about, you know, if that's something we just want to.
No, that's probably-
It's a big concern just because, you know, when we left the last meeting, there was only 2 months or 3 months of capital left
Right.
to debt service, you know, those obligations, which it may have been resolved, but it was a very.
It's down to the wire kind of thing, yeah.
Which then falls on the taxpayers. I mean, you know, the county has
Right.
to make
Well, maybe,
funds
you know,
back.
that they should hold in reserve such amount as to have operating capital or
Well-
debt service run for a minimum of 24 months.
Yeah, and I said it because would they, you know, have, you know, if there had been a limitation on, you have the ability and authority to loan that money, but you can't do it because the what if happens. You know, you always have to have the cash available, so there's got to be, I think, there's got to be some threshold. The bank always has to
They've
hold
got
so
to have
much
some
capital for a
discretion, but
reason.
at the same time, they've got to have some limitations.
So we should, you know, I'm thinking we make a recommendation that there be some study, or I don't know that we know what the number is, you know, or
No.
we just don't know. I mean, it's a capital that is held at all times to be able to debt service outstanding obligations for some length of time. I mean, you can't do it forever. I mean, it's got to be, you can't carry 10 years of capital. You know, it's gotta
No,
be
but I think 2 years is a reasonable
24 months of
number.
capital. Because we understand the IBA is speculative. I mean, you know, they are building, you know,
A hangar.
yeah, a hangar. But it started off, you know, building spec buildings in industrial parks. And there's still some of that, and that's still gonna happen again. So we have to understand that that's gonna happen, you know, there is.
Well,
that's where it's
there's
tricky.
no way to grow the industry here if you don't have something to sell them. You've got to have a product.
Which takes risk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is some gambling done at using other people's money. And I think that's what we're talking about is, you know, how is that the best and most efficient way to happen? You know, because obviously, you know, some of us may gamble on a hangar all day long. Some of us may gamble on an airport or a studio.
Yeah.
And some which never touch it. And we've all got different limits of our
Yeah, and-
threshold for risk.
We just need to provide some sort of guidance and good stewardship is what we're talking.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about doing, Mike, I think that's right. So is there any other recommendation that we could make? Because we've agreed that that we need the IBA, we need the Industrial Building Authority. We're just trying to make a recommendation on the best way for that to exist. I think you guys come back with that recommendation. If we can incorporate some of these things that we just discussed, you know, one of the major ones being that the hired hands don't have, they don't get a paycheck from both authorities. And then we need to go back and discuss what we were talking about just a minute ago about the authority itself. Do we want to make a recommendation that, because who currently sits on the airport authority? David, do you know who those members, I mean, is
And you
it?
got a lot of transfers up, but you, same thing, you got a lot of government that transfers.
It's the same
It's the
people
same,
here.
it's the same people, including, it's the Industrial Building Authority plus what, two people that are,
You happen to have some information that you could share with us, right? Would you please share that with us now?
These are color coded so you can figure out who's on the Board of Commissioners, on the Airport Authority, the IBA, and the Chamber of Commerce. So it shows you the process.
Thank you for taking the time to do this. I think that is, I presume that is accurate?
Yes, sir. Thank you for accepting the information.
Absolutely. So based on this information, there's no one that doesn't have just one hat on.
Calvin.
Um,
Calvin's on the Airport Authority.
and so is Kerry.
Yeah, Kerry did more.
Okay, so there is two more?
Yeah, they're on the Airport Authority, yeah.
Who's that?
Kerry
Calvin?
Tidmore and Calvin Thompson.
But those are the
But
two
they
that
don't-
were appointed by David Austin? Is that
Uh,
correct, or?
Well, they were appointed to the Airport Authority. The two that are appointed, we don't have Jim Underwood on here either.
So
He's
the
on
two
Industrial
appointees
Building
on each
Authority.
one of them are not
Yeah, Jim's
reflected
on that too, right?
Yeah, Jim's on the Industrial Building Authority and the Airport Authority.
He's on both.
Yeah. Blake is not a member of the authority, he's the hired director of both.
Right.
Yeah, he's a paid employee.
Well, there's no question that one needs to be different.
Yeah. But, you know, I think I've been attending when it wasn't in conflict with our meeting, the steering committee for the Airport Authority, and I sense that they're thinking along the same lines as what we've talked about the makeup of the membership, not having the overlap that we're having, and I think you're going to see some recommendations coming out of them that would recommend that almost all of the political aspect of it, politicians be removed from that board and be substituted with aviation and business expertise.
Well, and that, you know what?
And that's appropriate for that board in my
That's the kind of
sense.
recommendation we need to make, is that broad.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need, because sitting here looking at
Yeah.
this, it's like, well, we need to take this person off, this one, you know, I don't think we can be that specific.
No,
It's
no,
gonna
no.
be broad and just what you, just how you
Yeah.
articulated it just then.
Right.
Um,
And that's the sense, like I said, I needed some time to think through the verbiage and whatnot that we can
Well, good, that's good.
Make that a broad one. But yeah, that's the sense that I get now. And again, I even, because of the economic development side and how much comes from the state in the economic development, that we get a recommendation for a member of the Industrial Building Authority from our legislative delegation. I don't think each one of them should make a recommendation, but I think collectively our legislative delegation ought to have the right to make a recommendation for a member. Because, I mean, let's face it, an awful lot of the money that we get for grants and whatnot comes through the legislature, and the more we can involve them and make them aware of what's going on locally and that sort of thing, then the more likely we are going to be able to get that money. I mean, that's the way the game's played, guys, whether you like it or not.
All right, well, let's do this. I think that's the crux of what we're,
Yeah.
where we are, is these, who's sitting where and on what?
And how they should be determined, if we want to make a recommendation along that line.
And I would agree wholeheartedly with that. So, is that something that you two can work on and then share with us, and then
Yeah.
we'll?
I think so. I can't
we'll
commit
come-
for Jerry, but I
Oh,
would.
yeah, I'll commit to that.
Well, and I just say that, and then we'll
Yeah, I'll be
end up
glad
here
to
next
do
week.
it.
We'll need to plan those, but, and then we can kind of hash that out, because I don't have any real big issues with anything that you said as far as where it goes. It's just the complexity of making it happen.
Yeah. Well, of course, again, our job is to make recommendations, and the complexity of making it happen falls on the legislative body. Recommendations from the Board of Commissioners and to our legislative delegation, because it'll have to go through that process, even to go through the constitutional amendment. It's got to come from somewhere.
So it could just be as simple as
Yeah.
a recommendation that somehow includes someone from the or
Right.
an appointment or whatever from the legislative
Mhm.
body, delegation. Okay. Well, yeah, I think you can simplify that. It don't need to be a,
No,
talk about a paragraph.
I'm not a writer of dissertations, I can tell you that.
Oh. All right, well, do y'all think that with that, is there anything else that we need to discuss as far as what we want to recommend?
No, I don't-
Either a change or implement something new, or do away with something?
I think we can get some of this through.
I think that's a pretty good
Improvement.
task, if we get those recommendations
Yeah.
down on paper, where we can finalize the language, and get that done in our next meeting, be prepared to make our presentation to the Board of Commissioners, and that's a pretty good task for their mind.
Okay.
Ongoing activities, I mean, do we want to look harder at those to maybe ask or recommend short-term or long-term exit strategies for any of those projects? And they may already have these, I don't know, but it just seems we've got some things going on that
Well, I
Kinda wait and
personally
see
don't
what
think
the
we
fate
ought to
deals
need-
us.
that our job was not to micromanage.
Yeah, I was kind of
existing-
following on, I don't know that that's within
scope
what we,
of this committee.
yeah, I think that's something we could do personally, or,
Yeah, if you want-
outside,
if you
once
wanna
we
go to-
get out of the committee, if we want to go collectively as citizens and make that recommendation, because
But I think that's a
that was
little
my
abstract.
thought too, was, when I asked one guy, what are can't we just bail? What's the bottom dollar? Let's just get rid of it and, cut our losses and move on. Of course, the answer was, I think it's appreciating in value, and I'm not so certain that that's the case. Sometimes in my world, I sometimes sell things and write a check to go with it and go on to the next thing, because this thing's killing me. But I don't know.
But you get into that realm of corporate finance and business restructuring, it requires a certain level of, expertise where somebody's gonna come in and make some tough decisions. And decide what's the most
Yeah.
viable projects going forward, and which ones need to have a shorter term exit strategy.
Yeah, and I agree with that thought train as well. You know, what crosses my mind is.
I got a
if we-
feeling
If we
some of
were
these
offered
things will be
$4.5 million
resolved.
on a $5 million debt, would we take it? You know, or would we say, no, we're gonna hang on, and keep paying X amount of dollars a month? You know, I mean, that's just interesting, initiative thought.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the last meeting, they were concerned about the amount of cash available to service debt, so I mean, you start getting in situations like that, I mean,
And I
only these
think
kind of
the
things
issues
come
will
up.
resolve
And I think what we have is a patch right now.
Yeah.
With the loan that's about to be repaid.
Yeah.
It only lasts so long. How long will that debt service as well?
Well, I'm talking about, I think they're gonna repay the entire debt.
Well, for that
that we
one,
loaned
yeah, but there's
them.
other things out there.
There's
that
other
we're paying
things
on.
out there, but I think that will give them the time to do these others, because they've got, according to, they've got prospects looking at different projects within the inventory available. The only real thing is the movie studio, and I think that thing's gonna resolve itself. I don't know that they're gonna renew that, but that's neither here nor there. That's not our decision.
But if you get these other people involved in it, like that we're hoping that we could, then I think that would answer your
Well, none of this
question.
gonna
They could
happen
be
fast.
making the recommendations on what they do, on getting rid of some of these projects that we shouldn't be in, and they could resolve that rather than it being part of this this committee. It wouldn't be up to us, then it would be the experts they're gonna bring in who's got a better idea.
That'd be something though I would want to know as well, some short-term strategies. All right, so if y'all can get something presented to us, let us kind of look it over, and then we'll all get back together. There's nothing else to be discussed. Is there anything else in this ballpark that we need to talk about? All right, there are a few things. Tuesday, we agreed to set our regular meeting schedule on the fourth Thursday of every month for the remainder of this year. To go forward, that means we're going to have a meeting on November 27th, which is Thanksgiving, and December 25th, which is Christmas. Now,
Maybe we ought to reconsider
Well,
this.
all right, but having said that, as I'm foreseeing 2 more meetings.
Yeah, I was thinking that,
I'm thinking we're on the downhill side of this.
yeah, and August 28th is our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Correct.
And then the September meeting would be the final.
Okay, so let's just check the calendars real quick on those. August 28th looks fine with me for right now, and so.
It is for me too. Yeah, the
We'll say September 25th. Yeah.
Well, the September meeting
Is
is
it-
not one I can,
You gonna be playing in the golf?
no, that's my birthday and I've got plans.
Happy birthday, we'll bring you a
I'm gonna
gift.
be out of town for,
Mine's the 22nd.
but,
We can celebrate that week.
you know, we can, I mean, I don't have to be here for that one.
Let's see how the next meeting goes.
Because, yeah, because we may be able to wrap it up in a called meeting ahead of time there.
Is that good with you guys?
So it'll be August 28th?
August 28th is the next meeting.
Okay.
And that's the regularly scheduled meeting.
And then in that meeting will be, although we met here, I just want to announce that the other meetings will be held in the Board of Commissioners conference room. So,
Yeah, because somebody's already got this room.
Correct.
Right.
so just make a
Got a
note, we
question?
need to make sure the
Right.
agenda reflects that.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
We were wondering if you would consider moving it to a different Thursday, since the Airport Authority Steering Committee is the second and fourth meeting, which means the citizens can't attend both. We end up having to split up. Would you consider the third Thursday? Or the first even, or
We had
just a
conflicts
different?
is the reason.
Yeah,
We
we looked
discussed
really
that in the
hard at
last
that.
meeting, and we had a number of conflicts.
Okay,
And I know I
on
can't next
that.
month.
But,
Okay.
uh,
And then the other third Thursday is winter break for the school. I don't know that that means we're going anywhere, but
Okay.
there's a, but we did discuss that intensively to land on. To be honest with you, it was tough to land on the fourth Thursday, and it.
Yeah, because there were several
it is
people that
looking
couldn't
tough.
be, we even looked at other nights of the week.
I would just want to ask that it's not intentional.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right, well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
For considering
Thank
it.
you for asking.
Another question.
Yes,
And I
sir.
have two comments real quick.
Yes, sir.
Number one, there, I would like to see y'all recommend, when y'all make the recommendation, that it be subject to the same thing that it was subjected to back in 1972. And that's a referendum by the people. This is a constitutional
Well, first of all,
amendment.
the IBA was established in the 60s, not in 1972.
Well, all right, 60s,
And it was a
I'm sorry.
constitutional amendment then, and it will have to be a constitutional amendment now. We can't change
Yeah,
that.
there's nothing
So
that-
it will be voted on statewide if these recommendations go forward.
It will be?
Yeah, it has to be by law. We don't have any choice there.
Well, that's fine. I like.
Well,
that.
that's.
Yeah, and they just, and that's, we're not, that's the reason was, to begin with, we almost got bogged down in the process. And, we're just like you guys, we just want this thing to work, for it to be the most effective way to, and profitable way, and less intrusive to the people of the county. And that, we hope to make them that way, and then it's really not up to us to see how they get implemented. If they can, they can. If they can't,
Yeah, that's
we just need to be sure
outside
that
our
they
scope.
can. We hope they can, but I'm like you, it's like, if it's a difficult method, then let's go through the difficult process, but if it's simple, let's make it simple.
Great. The only other comment that I would like to make is when you're talking about the bonds and everything, now they have to go through the commission. Every one of them goes through the commission. And it seems like to me that some of the things that y'all were talking about tonight takes away from the people that are elected to do these things. That's just my observation.
Well, legally, they do not have to go through the commission. But as a matter of practicality, they have to be backed by the commission
Have to be.
because nobody's going to loan the industrial building authority
Yes,
money
yeah.
because they ain't got any way of generating any way to pay it back.
Well,
So
the
it has
county's
to be
the
guaranteed
guarantor,
by the county. That's right. That's right.
Exactly
And
right.
that's not by law, but that's by practical
But I
business.
think where you're saying is, I don't think we want to exclude all the county officials. If that's what you're saying, that doesn't need to happen either. I mean, but we do know that it changes within each administration. They each got a different focus, and that's one of the things is, is you get something you get a train going, and then you elect somebody else, and this train may be okay, but the train gets stopped because it's got a whole different focus and wants to go a whole different direction, and it just keeps ebbing and flowing that way.
My only point is there that I have more faith in the people that I vote for than what the
And the ones that they
people.
appoint.
Yeah, and they should have the same, at least the same amount of authority after this is over with is what they got now.
Yeah,
I'm
and I
talking
don't
about the
think-
elected people.
I don't think that's going to change. I think you're talking about the mayors and
Talking
the
about the
council.
commissioners.
The commissioners.
They're the ones going to fund these bonds.
Well, nothing that we recommended would ever change.
Yeah, I don't
any of
think that really not. So I think actually what we're talking about is just another layer under them that makes a recommendation to them.
Right.
Okay. I didn't understand that.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
I hope we clarified that.
We did.
Okay, good.
Anything else?
You got another question?
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you. I know you guys are all volunteers, and it's a perception because you're on the other side of the room, that you're really on this side of the room.
Absolutely.
You guys are citizens, so I thank you for your time, and obviously you guys are doing your homework and everything. I appreciate that. I personally, I apologize for the first meeting. We got off on the wrong foot because the attitude from the normal citizens is a reactive response to the secrecy. We were part of that. The chairman created that environment. So, but I appreciate you taking the time to hear our concerns.
And thank you for that. You're right, I did kind of form an opinion from the first meeting. And you and I can be friends.
Yeah, I apologize.
we're good.
But I think you guys are going in the right way, so.
Well, thank you
We're
for
all wanting
saying-
the best for
Yeah.
Paulding County.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all
Right.
striving for the same
Right.
thing.
Any other comments?
Yes,
This
please.
your last one, yes.
You got it. You talked about repaying any loans from the IBA back to the IBA within 2 years? Is that
No,
what I?
no, just
No.
being able, if there, any existing loan, we should have the capital to debt service it for some amount of time, and we kind of landed on 2 years. You know, it's sort of like us in our own home, if we lose our job, we need 6 months or 12 months worth of way to
It's
pay our
just
bills, you
establishing a
know?
reserve.
Oh, for
rainy
reserve.
day.
I
And-
misunderstood.
and-
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't, we can't, we don't know
Well,
what the
we don't have
future
that
holds, you
authority,
know?
this is a recommendation we're making.
Yeah, the point I was going to make was to factor in that bonds don't mature within 2 years.
That's right.
And I thought that's what you were referring to with
Now, we won't be able to
repaying
pay the
anything.
interest on those bonds for that 2-year period, is what we're saying, and they need to hold that capital.
And the other side of that is to prevent from being able to issue new bonds that would put them in the same position. You know, just because you can debt service what you got, you don't need to go out and borrow more
Yeah,
money.
you
where
can't borrow
put you in a
yourself out of
position-
debt, you know, I mean, that's,
Oh,
Yeah, you're just talking about leverage limits, maybe,
Yeah.
a ratio based on the number of assets
Right.
that you have, how much more you.
it's called sound business practice.
But thank you.
Okay.
for
No, I'm
asking.
sorry, I
Thank you.
misunderstood.
All right, any further discussion from the county or the committee, or what we discussed?
Our next meeting is the 28th of August. It'll be in the conference room.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
When we adjourn?
Same place here?
In this building, but in the conference building.
Conference hall.
Through there, okay.
We'll have a guide to get us there.
Good.
I've never been in that.
Put up,
Presentation you
leave
gonna
a
make
break
to the
trail,
commission.
trail of breadcrumbs or something. so I
Not
can
be at
find
the
it.
commission.
You know, I have no idea. I don't know, but I think